Today we're going to be making soft sculpture earrings made out of scraps of fabric or fabric you've purchased new, but I like to use everything recycled or pre-loved, so the fabric will just guide your pattern. I've made these ones with a bird embroidered onto it. We'll make these carrot ones in the video today. I did some broccoli earrings. You can use an old shirt. This is the sleeve of an old shirt, an old tablecloth, some of Nana's old napkins. You can be as imaginative and creative as you like when you're making your earrings, and I hope you enjoy making them with me today. Here are the things that you'll need to make your soft sculpture earrings: some paper scissors, some fabric scissors, some thread trimming snips, a wooden chopstick or a long straight thin stick from the garden. Even better if it's got a little rough end on it, that will help you with your stuffing. Pencil, marker or chalk to mark your design on your fabric. An assortment of scrap fabrics, some filling or stuffing, some pins and a couple of needles, some earring fixings, a large needle or a smallish nail, and that will be to pierce a hole in your finished soft sculpture earring to fix your earring loops and hooks onto. An assortment of coloured embroidery thread and some long nose pliers. These are regular ones, but I can't find my jewellery ones. The jewellery ones are just much easier to use because they're much smaller and delicate, but these will do the job. Now we're going to think about the shapes that we want to make our soft sculpture earring. We might start first of all just with a basic circle, but cut it a little bit bigger than what you think it might be because they are harder to sew when they're smaller, and they actually look better if they're a bit bigger and oversized, a bit more of a, making more of a statement. So I've just drawn a few little shapes here: a circle, a kind of teardrop shape, a very loose fish shape, or a long rounded rectangle. And this one might even need an extra ½ centimetre around the edge when you're cutting it out. So what we're going to do is mark these patterns, or one of these, choose a pattern that you like, and even make a couple of different shapes and cut out a few different selections for your earrings. And then when you've cut it out, you can see how much you like it or not. And you're just using small amounts of fabric, so just have fun playing with all the different shapes. What we're going to do next is mark this onto our fabric and then cut our fabric out. Decided to make some carrot earrings. I have this orange fabric, and then all I've done is just sewn. This is a bit of an old tablecloth that had some green printing on it, so I just sewed a bit on each edge of the orange fabric, and I'm going to fold that in half. And I probably could have been more generous with my scraps and had a bit more fabric, but I like to make things difficult for myself. So I sewed the green on so that will be the top roughly. This is real rough. I'm not precise about any of this because the looser it is, the more fun it is, and it looks less perfect, which is good. Well, I like it anyway. So you can see that's on a bit of an angle there, but that's okay. I'm just going to see what it looks like. And if I sew it up and it doesn't look very good, I'll just start again anyways. It's just having a play around. So you can see there my 2 carrot earrings marked out on my fabric. And then I'm just going to really kind of roughly cut them out because when I'm sewing, I'm going to trim them again. So it doesn't really matter how perfect they're cut out now. So you can see there that I've just got the black outline, and I'm going to sew around that black outline, and I'm going to leave about 3 to 4 centimeters as an opening so that I can stuff it once I've turned it in the right way. So just roughly cutting these out and ready to sew them up. And remember, when you're making earrings, see how they're both the same. When I've sewed around these, I'm going to flip one of them over so that they're like a mirror pair of each other, and this side will be the right side. So they're the same earring, but because they're a pair, they're a mirror image of each other rather than two the same. So if it was a duck looking in one direction, you don't want both ducks looking in the same direction. You want the ducks either looking towards each other or both looking away. Not sure if that's a good explanation, and it actually doesn't matter. You can have two ducks facing the right way if you want to. Okay, let's sew it up. Here's my what will be carrot earrings. I've just sewn roughly, really roughly around the black line, and in places where it was really close to the edge of the fabric, I've just come in a bit so that there's a bit of a seam allowance there. And now I'm just going to trim the threads, and then I'm going to use my scissors to cut a bit closer where there's a bit of excess fabric. And I'm just going to cut so there's around about 1/2 centimetre around the edge. Like that. I've left this little bit open here at the end. And then I'm going to just snip, especially in the corners, but just snip around. Don't snip your stitches. If you do, just go back and do another go around over the same stitching line, but you just want to snip so that the curved edges will turn nicely without puckering up. So that's about it. Do that on both of your earrings, and then we're ready to turn inside out and stuff them. Going to turn them in the right way. So we've left this opening here, 3 or 4 centimeters, and because these are short and not too small, they're easy to turn with your fingers. And then you're just going to poke the little end of the carrot with your finger down. Doesn't really look like a carrot now, but when we do our embroidery over the top, I think they'll start to look a little bit more like a carrot. So that's the first one. And then the second one, we'll do the same thing. And then what we're going to do is lightly fill, not too much, just so that it's like a little soft pillow. We don't want too much stuffing. And we want to try and get the stuffing sort of easily distributed through the pattern. So there's not one area that's really tight with stuffing. We sort of want it fairly even, but sometimes that's a bit hard to do. So I'm just using my chopstick to poke the corners out, and it does go through the stuffing, so it's hard to actually stuff with that, but because these are small, you can easily use your fingers. So I'm just going to poke some stuffing up into this corner, and then a little bit more here. So I think that's not too bad. It feels pretty good all over. That's one. And then I'll just quickly do this one. You can kind of see that they're starting to look a little bit like a carrot, a very abstract, organic, hand-grown carrot, homegrown carrot, not a supermarket straight perfect carrot. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I'll just use my stick to stuff that corner out a bit. And then I just want to check that they're both about the same, and that looks good. Now we've got our 2 stuffed carrots, and we've got the opening here that we're going to just hand stitch so the opening is closed. So grab your needle and thread, and then just do a little stitch like this. Okay, just finishing off stitching up the opening that we had. And then we're ready for the fun bit. So grab our embroidery thread and start stitching any sort of design you like on your earring. So if you've got circles, you might want to just do a spiral pattern in different colors, or like a sunburst or something like that. But just have, if you're not sure what you want to do, just have a play around. I've started stitching my carrot. I'm using orange, a bit boring, but I thought I would do orange and pink for the carrot, and then a few shades of green for the greenery at the top. When you start stitching, the important thing is to hold the carrot or whatever item, circle, whatever, hold it flat so the seams are flat across when you're stitching, so that it turns out as flat as you can make it, and then that will avoid any twisting as well. So I just use these two fingers here to hold the seams together so that it's flat, and then I'm using a pretty small stitch. I think a smaller stitch looks better than a bigger stitch, but have a play around with your stitches and see if you like a bigger stitch or a smaller stitch. It's actually totally fine to do random stitches, long, short, small, small stitches in a little group, or big long stitches. You can stitch over your stitches in other colors to make it really interesting. I'm just going to do the outline of the carrot now, and then I'm going to, I've got a little notch here, so I'm just going to lift that up with my needle, and then if you go in there, you can usually sort the knot out and then just slowly pull it back in. All of these embroidery threads are pretty old. They're second-hand. They were given to me by an elderly friend of my mum's, so they're really old. So really old thread and old cotton sometimes tends to knot really easily. I don't know why, but with newer threads and cottons, they don't seem to knot as easily as the old stuff. So I'm just going to keep going around in my shape of my carrot, and then I'm going to thread green, and I'm going to do the greenery at the top of the carrot. So we'll come back and have a look at that when I'm up to that bit. I'm just finishing off the outline of the carrot and the green top part of the carrot. I know the top of carrots don't look like this. This is just a kind of cartoon version for the sake of making some earrings. I'm just going to finish off these last few stitches of the green part of the carrot, but I just want you to make sure that when you're doing it, if you're going to make these or anything like it, and actually this looks a bit like a strawberry, so you could do it as a strawberry if you wanted to, but stay close to the edge when you're stitching around your border as much as you can, and that will make your finished piece a little bit more appealing. So if you sewed further in and had a bigger edge like this bit here, it becomes a bit puffy. But it is, if it was puffy, what you can do is just add some background detail, and that will flatten out that bit in the background. I'm going to finish this off and then add some detail to this part of the carrot and a bit of detail to the leaves. Now I'm just sewing a bit of hot pink detail on the carrot. I'm not sure if it really looks a lot like a carrot or not, but we'll just keep going, and we'll do the second one, and then we'll attach the earring fixings, but we'll see how they look. So I think just keep stitching. If you're not sure, if it feels like it doesn't look finished, just add a few more stitches, and you can see how it still looks a bit pillowy. So I might add some orange stitches onto here, and I've still got to add a few more bits of green to the top. But yeah, just have fun with your stitching and play around with it. I just wanted to show you the back as well. You can cover the back, you can cut out a bit of fabric that matches the shape, and then you can just hand stitch it on the back if you don't like the look of the stitching on the back. But I don't have an issue with it, I quite like it, but it's really a personal thing if you want to get rid of it or not. I think I finished my first carrot, so I just added some more stitches into the body of the carrot and then some more stitches around the greenery area. Now I just have to do my other carrot. You can see the difference with all the stitching, it makes it quite thin, whereas this one's a bit more puffy like a pillow. And like I mentioned before, I'm going to make a pair, so you can see this shape is a mirror of this shape here. So rather than having them both on this pointy side like that, I'm going to turn that around, so this will be the right side. So I'm just going to replicate the stitching from this one onto this one. Now here's the finished, well, I think they're finished. They're finished for now anyway. Here's my finished carrots. You can see the back. It's got the random stitching on the back, but that's okay. You can trim a little bit of that if there's a few knots showing. But there's the two carrots. So now we're up to putting the earring fixings on, and this is where we'll need a nail or a large needle. This is actually a tool for putting holes in for press studs and things like that, but it's just a sharp pointy tool, or a large needle will be fine. Your earring fixings, so I'm going to use 4 jump rings, 2 on each earring, and then 2 earring hooks. So that will go 2 on there and 2 on there, and I'll show you why we need 2. And we need our pliers for this. So to work out where to put your hole for your first jump ring, usually it's at the highest point or around about the highest point, but nearest to the center of your earring. So I think around about here is the right spot for this jump ring. So I'm doing it about 2 mil from the edge, and I'm just going to pierce it straight through. And depending on the fabric you use, maybe easy, maybe not. So I'm just piercing it through like that, and there's a hole there. Yeah, and then on my other carrot, I'm going to do the hole at about the same spot. And I'm not about perfection, I'm more about imperfection. So if it's slightly off, it doesn't really matter. And the more you do, the more you'll become familiar with where the right spot is to put the hole. And then I'm going to open up this jump ring. You could just do it with your fingers or 2 pliers. And I'm not sure if you can see that, but I've opened up that jump ring. So I'm going to put that through this hole, and then I'm going to put the other jump ring through that ring as well, and then I'm going to close it up. And if there are people who make jewellery, you'll probably be horrified at my technique, because I'm not really a jewellery maker, but I get by with my sewing skills making jewellery. Okay, we're going to open up this other jump ring now, and we're going to thread it through this hole. And there's our first earring. So we'll do the same thing on this other one. Okay, success. That is the first one and the second one. there is our pair of carrot earrings.